Okay, and like, everything is planned, all the legit.
Emergency threatening and just assistance with what and who can do it. So I'll talk to Barry.
Would you have done the septic before this kind of weather?
County
Just as bad. Septic.
and outreach coordinator for that program that
Emergency management.
When they built that house,
She
they used OSB.
filled me in.
And it goes-
But so far, I think, goodness, nobody's called.
They say that-
Well, and we can support like a high level of switchboard operating of like, oh, you have flooding in your house, this is a place you can go, or like you are a farm, you should pay attention to this part of our website and document resources, but I like to give people tweets of options, and that way they can kind of follow up where they might have need.
Stephanie gave me a little sheet of what to do for this week.
Cool.
But I had to make a little family tree of use.
It's yeah,
Yeah.
like being a dispatcher.
Well, I have that background, so
Perfect.
I'm good, but I
I'm
just.
Already in Maryland at a farmhouse that was built
Mobile
in
number, I know that you
1774.
gave it to me, but I have pictures to send to you. From the
Driving?
Yes.
You've been driving
Yes.
since Sunday.
Wow.
This is.
So we got a hope or something?
463.
Really?
Great.
18.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Classes, which
Yeah, Britt can last when you're not an earthquake country.
Yeah, there's not a lot of that in Maryland.
If you are an earthquake country, you probably should.
or debris in the road or whatever. Yeah, no.
Although now with the
I'm doing
framing.
really
you
well,
can
and
do-
actually they said I
with the
don't.
brick is just a facade.
Yeah.
Everything's framed.
Higher, or just more supportive, I
It's
could be out
probably okay.
walking along.
How much
It falls on you, I think.
Do you
I
wanna?
like being in
Somebody
UK
does that?
Yeah.
where they
well,
can finish the
yeah,
bedrooms
I
inside.
think also, it's kind of a
And
good.
tear them down.
Those old manor houses.
Where
Yeah.
between,
You know,
yes.
buildings downtown that were businesses and stuff.
We met my brothers in Portland.
Unlike the King Dome.
Show,
Or the White
and that
House.
was a big.
Oh,
So it was really good,
sad.
that, because I felt like, you know, if I people more careful, and I wasn't
Yeah.
ready to rumble with the, and, you know, but. So.
Among other things, consequent
Yeah.
enemy.
Yeah.
Good
It was at the
case.
Moda Center, and I.
Jackie O was the
I love the comedian, his name is.
personification of good taste. Of course,
If you have that.
he's trying to
Get rid of it.
Watch his
get rid of
videos.
all of it.
You can watch them on YouTube.
I heard on the way over here, there's this hallway of presidential portraits. Did you hear that story? I can't even believe that. That is,
happened?
so there's a hallway of presidential
Yes.
portraits. They've installed plaques underneath the portraits. But they're not factual, they're commentary. So like the one under Biden says, you know, something about Sleepy Joe, and the one under Clinton says his wife was failed to get elected president. Donald Trump won in 2016. So he put his own commentary under each presidential pack.
Which one is it?
Yeah, exactly. It's a tweet. It's a tweet. And it's in the official portrait gallery of presidents in the White House now, apparently.
I promise I will.
Kind of makes you proud, doesn't it? Embarrassing.
5.5 weeks ago. And
You know, every day is a new low. Like
Yeah.
how much worse does
okay,
it get?
thank you. She goes, I was thinking about asking you this.
It is not a question that I would be asking at this point. I
Right.
do not want to know anymore.
Like, it's the speech tonight, it's like, do I really want to hear what he has to say, or?
Ask questions you don't want to
Declaring
answer to.
war with Venezuela, or what's going on here?
Well, Gonzaga beat UCLA,
Being
so that was good.
involved, I'm
Basketball.
more of a hunker down,
Okay.
but after necessary.
Yeah.
My daughter turned 6.
So I have a tendency to grow my right.
That's good too.
That's a good thing.
The University of Washington men's soccer team won the national champion.
Yeah. What a good school.
David will not be able to join us this evening, and Marianne is on the. Do you want to double click on Marianne's face?
Do we know if she can hear us?
She can.
She can hear us.
She can hear
Yeah, double click on my face.
Now we see you really big instead of ourselves.
Oh God. So I'm in candlelight. It's kind of like a horror film. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah.
What's up behind you? It looks like there's somebody sneaking behind you.
The dark. abyss.
No, that's just my window.
Did you have
It's
a
kind
tree
of
come down or
sad.
something?
A tree came down up the street, hit a power pole, and crushed the fence at the school. It was a big, nice tree. Yeah. So anyway, so we're out of power. Yeah.
Do you have wood stove or propane heat or something?
No propane, but I do
Good.
have a backup wood stove, and
Good.
yeah, we're good. And I have battery, so yeah, but not for lights.
But enough for Zoom. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's impressive, Marianne.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
I have a battery, right, that I can, and I have I don't have internet out here. We don't have internet because they don't come this far. But anyway, so I have to use a hotspot anyway.
No.
So, yep. All right.
All right. Well, we'll try not to drag the meeting out too long in case your battery. has
No, I
issues.
think I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Well, oop.
You like to record this for David?
Yeah, I guess we should. We got about a minute here to get started. All right, it's 5 o'clock, and here we are for our last work session of the year, December 17th, 2025. We've got 3 supervisors in the room, Doug and Jennifer and myself. We have Marianne online, and David had a last minute conflict and can't be here. So welcome everyone. First thing to look at here is the topic list review. There's been a couple of last minute changes. Item 3A is new. A little update from the conference that Sarah wants to give. Item 4 is new. Recently, right? Flood and disaster preparedness. And item 6, suggestion around our strategic plan that Doug brought up. So those are changed from the previous version. Is there anything else we need to change about the topic list here? All right.
We're gonna talk about going to NACD meeting during the work session or the board meeting.
Why don't we do that under NACD updates during the board meeting?
Okay, I have one I want to ask about. And that
Yes.
is, I'd like to in the future bring a speaker on board. It's a she is a where's my, I can't read my notes, you guys. I'm in the freaking dark. Anyway, she's a crop scientist and she's working on what's called biocellulose instead of using plastic for
Mhm.
crops. And I'd like her to come on board and talk about this. So,
Okay, let's make a note for that for scheduling 2026 presentations.
Yeah,
great.
if you want to send me Mary Ann, we can get her on deck.
And that's timely too, because there was a session at WACD about plastics and recycling an alternative to agricultural plastics. So, yeah.
Great.
Okay.
We don't have NACD updates on our agendas anymore because we don't have NACD national director.
Oh, that's true. So let's add it to let's make it item 6D under partner reports, and we'll talk about the NACD conference there. Okay, so with that, we've got a lot of stuff to get through here, so we'll jump into it. First up is a staff presentation from Tina. Haven't seen Tina here in a while, so welcome back.
Thank you.
You talked to us about community gardens and farmland preservation. We'll give you roughly 15-ish minutes or so. And then we will hold questions till the end. And if we have any questions, we'll do that at the end of your presentation.
Sounds good.
Okay, it's all yours.
It's working on getting there.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so I think I was a little confused, but I do have materials to talk about both farmland preservation and community gardens. This particular presentation will be is not accepting my, there we go. So I'm here to talk about community gardens in 2025, and it'll be mostly an update, kind of what progress we've made. I wanted to start a little bit with just a 2024 recap, because I know Jennifer, you're new, and so we, with our interlocal agreement with the city of Olympia, built in 2024 3 new gardens at the tiny home villages. We worked with Grub, and at that time we were working also with South Sound YMCA as a partner. We also were involved in a rehabilitating, and you can see the 3 pictures on the bottom here, the Olympia Community Court Garden, and it became a very successful project. We actually cleaned it up in fall of 23, and in 24 we hosted a number of workshops there, including hands-on irrigation. We did planting, we did a cover crop workshop to end out the season, and probably brought about between 400 or 500 pounds of food to the food bank from this garden. So it was a really great garden to work in. Unfortunately, we were not there in 2025, and it looks like the first picture. So, which is kind of a bummer, but that's the case. We also started garden support for the city-owned gardens at Sunrise and Yager Park, and so spent time in the gardens, did programming with them, especially the YMCA did a lot of programming with them. The Olympia Community Garden is the oldest community garden in the city. It's been around since the 80s, like 87, and we did 2 workshops there. One was an invasive removal, and another was a tree pruning workshop. And so they were both really well attended, and it was really helpful to that garden. And we continue to support the Young Community Garden as well. So if we pivot, I'll talk first about the Tiny Home Village Gardens. And so this year you can see they're Pictures from 2025. Unfortunately, I'll start with the bad news first because we'll end on a high note. The Franz Anderson garden was, we didn't have anything to do with it. They did actually grow some things and it had some success, but there was a big turnover in the management of that. And so they did not have time to talk about garden things with us, and they did not need us to be in their space. They managed it. We'll be back next year and we'll do a better job, but it wasn't fantastic. The other two gardens at the Plum Street Village and at Quint Street Village, we were able to use the city's new program to have garden ambassadors. And so they had people in those communities who stepped up and wanted to receive a stipend. They managed the gardens and they did a great job. They harvested, they cooked. Actually, in the Plum Street Village is quite a small space. We really had to shoehorn things in. And on the kind of left side of the picture, one of the residents there got a cutting from a raspberry and put it in the ground and it grew. And they had this fabulous raspberry patch there. So it was really great. And so that was really fun. They did a great job. And the other thing that we were able to do is have two garden interns. So they were both from OSU, one from Ohio State, one from Oregon State. And they kind of had different focuses. Marco from Ohio State was more, he was here earlier in the season. He spent a lot of time in Bucota with me and was more kind of horticulturally interested. And then Allie from Oregon State has done different agricultural things. She's an Avanti graduate and she was interested more in the social part. So she did a lot of programming with the residents at the Quint Street Village and they really loved her. So it was pretty neat that she did that. And then we had some new additions. And so one of the first things that we did was the Community Garden Network and Support Meeting, which was in March, and I'll talk more about that. And then big project for me was the Bucota Garden. And so you can kind of see it started with some little beds that they had and a big open space and not a lot else happening there. And it ended up being a really cute and sweet garden that has a lot of potential for growth. And then our Olympia garden this year was the Evergreen Vista Garden, which again was not anything and now is something. The Community Garden Network and Support Meeting, we've had more than 18. The number keeps growing, so we keep adding gardens to this network. We had the meeting at the Prosperity Grange, and actually NRCS came and spoke because there are programs that things are a little weird this year, but everybody's on track. We're fine. Funding for different entities, so different municipalities and things that are eligible for that. And so they met with the Northeast Neighborhood Association, who has built a Joy Food Forest, is what they call it. And they had the technical providers come out, help them come up with the micro irrigation program, and they did an install and all this work. And so it's been really cool, and it's a great example of how we can bring support into the community and actually, help facilitate things that come on the ground. We've gotten engaged with the Southwest Olympia Neighborhood Association, who's really doing some great work. I want to keep working with them. And then we've also we're building our list. So every year with the city of Olympia, we're going to be building a new garden. And so just yesterday I went to a meeting, we're talking about building it with the Family Support Center's new housing unit at the Landing. They have a small garden. We're going to help them with their irrigation, with their soil, build a bigger space, do a lot of education. So it'll be a great space for them. The same with the Camp Quixote and Billy Frank Jr. It's kind of some neat opportunities there, I think. And then we started in May. Our funding from the city was a lot in 2024, was really nice to have in 2025, but it was not as much as there wasn't as much time to go into the gardens. And so I started putting together a garden newsletter, and it's been really well received. It goes out to a lot of people. And we put it on our social media. We've encouraged people to make screenshots of it. And then it's, something in their pocket and they're out in the garden in May. What do I do? Well, this is what I'm looking for. And so it's been a useful tool, I think. And then Bucota. So that's the other big project. And it's not actually in order. I actually put the list of what we did in order of what the pictures are. But we started just after our plant sale, which everybody loves plant sale. Putting in a hedgerow, so they would have both some privacy, some aesthetics, and it would be helpful for their garden in terms of growth with pollinators. So that's in the upper right picture. The next workshop, these all come with workshops, right? So every project we do comes with a workshop. The next was on rainwater catchment, and so we talked about rainwater catchment, how you do it, what kind of rates there are, and then how to put them in. We built beds, so we put in different kinds of beds, but they did raised beds that are pretty durable, but not impossible to move should they need to move them. And then did a planting day, put in the greenhouse. Unfortunately, I just got a text today in the wind, the greenhouse went. Oh, no. Like that. So like, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, well, okay, here's some ideas. Let's talk about it. In any case, but I hope it's not bent. I don't know. We'll find out. He's in a new location right now. We partnered with Timberland Regional Library and they did 3 different story trails through the garden, which was really fun. We built a compost bin, the hottest day of the year. We were there trying to build a compost bin. Not a lot of volunteers didn't get finished. When we did our staff work party, also second hottest day of the year, it got finished. So they have a great 3-bin compost system. We put trellises throughout the garden, you know, trying to build vertical space as well as kind of dimension and places for them to grow ornamental things as well. We put in light poles and strung lights, so they have a courtyard where their picnic tables are. It's a space that kind of enhances their ability to use that space. We put in it doesn't have the picture of the strawberries in here because all the strawberries were upside down, so the view was upside down. But we made a B-shaped berry bed for Bucota. And then we did other workshops. We did a seed saving workshop, we did food preservation workshop. And then there was our great work party day with the staff, and you can see it ended up, we've spread all of the chips. The chips were free. It looked really good at the end of that, and all those kind of little projects that we hadn't finished yet were done. And then our very talented Jay Townsend painted the new sign. It looks great there. That was really fun. So then we'll come back to Olympia. And again, I started with that kind of, there's nothing there. We had a really fantastic work party. We had volunteers that were part of the community. We had staff members from Grub, from TCD, from Evergreen Vista. We had World Relief because Evergreen Vista is the Mercy Housing Unit. They also house people that are here as refugees. They offer refugee housing. This family brought out kind of a Middle Eastern version. I think they were Iranian, and they brought out a Middle Eastern version of tiramisu and shared it with everybody that was there. It was a great work party. And so that's what it looked like at the end of that first day. And we put in trellises, again, trying to put in vertical space. Then we put in irrigation, which should have been great. And the day after we put it in, someone stole the hose and stole the timer. And so then it became hand watering, which was a little bit more challenging. We're trying to come up with a solution to make it a little bit more secure. In the end, I didn't have any great photos of it, but you can see some of the growth. And we did a planting day. A fence was something they really wanted, which would have helped with at least, you know, the hose might have been able to be disconnected, but the timer would have been there. We could have, but in any case, Southgate Fencing donated all of their labor. And so with the funding that we have from the city, we were able to just pay for the materials, and they came over, bada bing, bada bang, and put it in. It was great. There's a lock on the door. And so that's been helpful. And then this was just before I took everything that was here out and planted cover crops. So again, we're putting in cover crops. We're going to be doing a pollinator project around the perimeter. It'll be great. So,
But Tina, just quick interruption. We have about 5 minutes left. Just
okay, I'm
FYI.
talking too fast. So,
No, you're doing great.
so the lessons learned, we found with this that we need to have a really clear definitions of roles and responsibility. And you know, as an entity, TCD, we're spending less time over the years. So the Garden Ambassador program is great. That's only applicable to the city of Olympia. It's not going to apply to Tumwater or Bucota unless they come up with funding or something like that. In Bucota, there were a lot of transitions, including kind of internally. We didn't think about, nor being on maternity leave, we didn't sign a contract with the city of Olympia until May of a contract that started in October. So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball on that. It was okay, but that also included a lot of turnover with the group that we were working with there, the Dakota Improvement Club. And so they had one person come in, another person come in, another person come in. And so every time there's a transition, who's going to be here for this work party, who's all of that. So that part we'll be smarter about next time. And Evergreen Vista, love working with Grove. They are fantastic, and we're really good partners, delivered on everything that we asked them to do. They have a lot of support from Union Gospel Mission. At least they said they would have a lot of support. Union Gospel Mission kind of just faded away. And so not relying on them, you know, we welcome them and we're not going to rely on them. And then the garden leadership is crucial. Again, I said in Bucota, the town had nothing to do with the garden until September. out of a contract that ran from October to October. And so we were limping along with the improvement club, and then the town got involved, and I think they're still working that out. We will be there to support whomever, but that part was a little confusing. At Evergreen Vista, again, the staff is really supportive. There are people really enthusiastic about it, but people, it's a low income housing. There are a lot of people that have health issues, and so their engagement in it is a little bit troublesome without having that plug and play watering system. That makes it a challenge, because then when you don't get out to water things, they don't flourish. And couple of the families, the immigrant families, were the ones that were very engaged, and then they had new housing, and so they're gone. And so, kind of figuring that out. Again, they will be eligible for that Garden Ambassador program next year, and I think that will be beneficial in a lot of ways. And so we'll work with that. And the tiny home villages, their garden ambassadors it worked out really, really well. So we were happy to have that there. And we try to maximize engagement in the garden features, because, we want to make sure they have water that's really accessible. We try to make sure that they can maximize their growing space. So whatever space is available. And going forward, we have a neat new grant, the Sustainable Farms and Fields, that has let us do some cover crop work and do pollinator projects. So we are going to be doing a pollinator planting at Evergreen Vista. We'll do one at Bucota, and we'll do one at the Homeowner Community Garden, those will be demonstration places. And then we'll be able to do, like workshops, and we'll be able to distribute pollinator seeds, which would be fantastic. And we've done some cover crop work. We did a demo at the Medicine Creek Community Garden, which went great. And I should have put that picture here. This is cover crop that we gave to people at Yager Park, and they grew it in one of their beds. But they sent me a picture of the cover crops growing at the Medicine Creek Garden, which was fantastic. And through the Harvest Festival and distributing to the community gardens that are part of the network, we distributed to them probably more than almost 20 people, different cooperators, either gardens or individuals. And then we'll be able to continue on with all the things that we'll do. We'll keep doing monthly newsletter. We're going to do another in-person network meeting, so people can get together and share. And again, with our partnership with Grub, they have a great seed library, and are great with doing starts. And so we've been trying to do a lot, really support the different community gardens, which has been loads of fun. So and that isn't anything about farmland preservation. Sorry.
Well, we can do that another month.
Yeah, I was going to suggest maybe we come back to that in January.
Yeah.
And do a bigger presentation on farmland preservation.
Okay.
There's so much in those programs, and Tina somehow uses magic to do a really amazing job with two very important and very robust programs. So we should give it its own spotlight.
Agreed.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you. I'll ask at this point if there's any comments or questions from the board. Do you have anything, Mary Ann?
No, that was great. Thank you, Tina.
Jennifer?
Yeah, no, it's great. And I really love creating that network around the community gardens, and like helping facilitate that and bring people together and creating community around that. So I thought that was really great.
It is fun.
I will say, having created and managed a number of community gardens, all of the challenges that you ran into are the ones that I would expect. And sadly, they're kind of always there. You have to always keep coming back to them as people cycle out, and the issue about theft and security is always an issue in urban gardens throughout the country. So hopefully we can figure out something about that. The one question I had, though, is last year you said we didn't have a contract with Olympia till May. And so I'm just wondering, what does it look like in terms of their budget for that this year? And are we going to be able to get started sooner?
So I may have misspoken. So the contract that didn't get signed until May was with Bucota.
Oh, okay. I thought that was Olympia. Okay. So then I'll just scale back and say, what does the budget look like for Olympia next year?
Well, they haven't told us they're cutting back.
Okay.
And so our original budget in 2024 was over 200,000.
Right.
And now we're looking at about 60,000 a year. So it's significantly less.
But it's stabilizing at that level?
But it's a 5-year ILA, and they haven't said bye yet.
Okay, good.
They have, however, said that they are going to be working on a citywide food action plan.
They are.
And there are potentially new opportunities for TCD to engage in supporting elements of that
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
So that might be an addition to this sort of sustaining community garden that we're doing, but there's opportunity there, and so they've approached us on that.
And I've been asked to be a part of that process too by one of the council members, so
Yes.
I'll be plugging into that too. Yeah.
I really like the social aspects of teaching people how to garden. That's really important.
Thank you so much for taking some time to be with us.
Okay,
You're welcome to stay. You're also welcome to leave.
well, I can stay.
Yeah, it's up to you. Okay, so let's then look at item 3 here, WACD conference debrief. All 3 of us were at the conference as well as Sarah, so what do people want to say here? Well, actually, let's flip it and let's start with the specific. Let's talk about the HR law update and then any other additional comments. So do you want to?
Yeah, this will be just a quick item. It was sort of an action item, in passing in conversation that you and I had, TJ, they had a presentation on a bunch of legislative changes and updates coming down the pike next year related to a variety of HR categories. We got that presentation from Associated Industries and did a review of the elements in there. We are either already in compliance with those, like those are things that we're already doing. They don't apply to us, or they're things to watch for as they come down the pike next year. So it was a really great summary of lots of things. And we're going to keep an eye out for those pieces that might be changing. Yeah, so we did a comprehensive review of that. If anything, there may be slight policy tweaks that come up next year that are just include some additional language, but overall, we're in really good shape with all of those different kind of topic areas without going into each one.
There was something in that session that talked about needing to send certain notifications to employees before January 1st. Are we on top of that?
Yes, because it doesn't apply to us.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So that's on the HR piece. So other thoughts, observations? Why don't you start? What's your first conference?
Yeah, it was great. I attended the session for new supervisors, which I thought was helpful. And I do feel like I now really understand the organizational structure, like that big
Yeah.
picture and how all the pieces fit in and are related. I thought that I understood it before, but then I was like, well, wait a minute. Now I get it. So I think having that context was really helpful. It was great getting a chance to meet folks from other districts. And I also liked seeing how the resolution process works. And so now I understand a lot of more about the conversations we've been having around that process and the resolutions. And so I thought that was really useful as well.
Doug?
I spent a lot of time with Heather Smith, who's going to be the national, or is the national director now. So I gave her 2 versions. I gave her the official version that's in the bylaws for WACD, and then I gave her 9 pages of Doug's view of the world, which is way more detailed. I think she'll do great. It was kind of too much for me, frankly. You know, and I'm thinking about, okay, I've been so heavily involved and now I'm going to be not. So how do we use the information I've got in my head and not lose that as an organization?
Yeah, question.
And I don't know how to do that.
We can start with 9 pages.
It's going to piss a lot of people off when they read it.
You can keep it.
But the important person got it.
That's what matters.
And I made a statement, and that was, let whoever replaces me, and I knew it was going to be Heather because she was the only candidate, let them be their own person. They don't have to do it like I did.
Yeah, I think knowing Heather, that's not going to be a problem. She
No.
is her own person.
Yeah, no, I agree.
In a positive way.
And I think that'll be good for the organization.
Good. Couple of takeaways for me were first, the increasingly bad budget situation in the state of Washington. $309 million less than budgeted over the 25-27 biennium. So there's immediate stuff happening, but then over the next 4 years, another $2 billion at this point. And my guess is that will get worse, not better. That might be like a best case scenario. So there's going to be some impacts that we'll have to deal with at some point. But fortunately, we have a financial strategy to help us make good decisions in that process. The other thing was around the discussion around election reform, et cetera, and then the required F1.
Yeah.
And Marianne, for you, that the F1 is a form that almost every elected official and appointed official in the state has to file. It's a disclosure form for finances. And so for us as supervisors, if this bill were to pass, we would have to file that form that would encompass not only our own personal finances, but those of our spouses or domestic partners. I personally have done that before with the city council. It's not that hard to do. It's a little invasive, but I would say that the majority of supervisors in the state came unglued at that prospect. And it will have ramifications for the sustainability of other districts, I think. So we'll see how that goes if the bill were to pass.
And by that, I'm assuming, I think you mean people aren't gonna wanna do the F1, so they're gonna quit.
They're going to quit. And whether they will be backfilled by other people who want to come in or not is, I think, probably a fair question in some of the areas.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. The third thing was around the workshop that you organized on conservation futures, which I thought was very helpful in understanding where it came from, what it does, and what its limitations are. And I'll follow up a little bit with that when I talk about my supervisor update later. But I think that was very helpful to set a baseline for people to really understand what that program's all about. So that was my takeaway, and I hope I never have to go into a smoky casino again, ever.
Oh, can I add just one more other thing too? I particularly loved all of the recognition that our conservation district got at the event. So Riverbend Ranch won a wildlife award. Sarah won an award. Doug won an award. I feel like it was a lot of recognition and visibility for our conservation district. So a lot of pride there for all of us, and just congratulations to both of you on your awards. They're so well deserved. I was so happy to see you get that recognition.
Thank you. It's a team effort. It's a team effort.
As an aside, I went out to Riverbend to get my Christmas tree, and I congratulated him on it, and he hadn't even heard yet. So I was the announcer of his award before he even heard from WACD about it. So, but he felt very good about that. Yeah. At any rate, Marianne, any comments, questions since you weren't there?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm sad that I missed it, but I'm glad to hear it's not going to be at a smoky casino next year.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to item 4 then, flooding and disaster preparedness. Sarah.
Just as a quick update for all of you, anytime there is any kind of natural disaster or emergency, we end up playing a bit of triage for folks that are looking for support and services. And sometimes we have more or less opportunity to support them and provide recovery efforts. There's a lot of different things going on and a lot of things to plug into, and that's very overwhelming for any individual. But we do that here and we aggregate it and then try and help people and support them in getting to the right place for the right issue. For those of you that don't know, we have a section on our website. I'm just going to throw it up here real quick. That is called Emergency Preparedness Resources. And it's in our resource library. If you go on our drop-down menu, it is really comprehensive. It not only covers emergency alert resources and different places to stay up to date with that, different things to sign up to for notifications, but it also is topically organized for resources depending on the natural disaster type that you might have. And it includes a bunch of different both preparedness on the front end, but also support in the event of a natural disaster. And there's tons of different links to a whole bunch of different local, statewide, national programs that might be applicable. So this is a great static place that people can come to as a first stop shop if they have an issue. Obviously, we also are an intake point, right? If people have damage and need some sort of support and recovery, we track those individuals related to disaster a little bit differently than other requests for assistance because they may qualify for other types of emergency and recovery programs. Anytime something like this happens, there is sort of a new roll of the dice on a lot of these programs, right? As they are stood up. The State Conservation Commission has a disaster assistance program that wasn't funded this round in the legislature, but they're having conversations with the governor's office after this declared state of emergency to see where resources might be funneled. There's no guarantee, but there could be opportunity in that box that we would have access to support folks. On the ground, again, we're sort of doing some of that aggregation of feedback of folks that might have any kind of damage, what type of damage, and we do this historically in any kind of natural disaster. It's pretty common for us to do in flooding. We've had significant floods in the past, and so we aggregate that. We also connect folks with like FSA has some programs, related to loss in things like floods. And any kind of initiatives around environmental emergency watershed protection program that NRCS has. So lots of things are going on here. Our damage is thankfully not nearly as impactful as damage other places in the state, but even minor damage can qualify for things. And so encouraging people to document that and take lots of pictures and getting them on the right track. So in case it crossed your mind over this rainy week we've had, what does TCD do for landowners and community members in natural disasters? We tend to be a hub of information sharing and sort of support for folks, just like we always are.
You set up the website, the web part.
Oh my gosh, I imagine that was such a conglomeration of our outreach team and a lot of folks that are working in the disaster preparedness space, like Stephanie and Jay. It's definitely a team effort. There's a lot of resources there.
Oh, thank you. That's really great.
We'll do so.
Thank you.
I wonder if that's something we should highlight we probably should highlight it in last month's newsletter, but just didn't
Yeah.
put it out there so that the public remembers that we do that.
Absolutely. And we have had some social media campaigns the last week or two also sharing a lot of this information. And I imagine it's probably already in our January template.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so item 5 is a resolution around entering into real estate transactions. We talked about this last month, and we had some suggestions for some improvements to the resolution.
A stab at it, but it might need more work.
Okay, so let's take a look at it and let's specifically highlight the things that have changed from the previous version.
Did I send a red line?
You didn't. You sent just a clean version. So it did not have that red line piece.
But if you can remember and point
Yeah.
to what you think it was, that would be a good starting point.
If we go down to
Yeah.
the section on what terms will be in the agreement, and I think it's in. There's a bit in 3 on earnest money where I clarify that it will be refundable in the event of non-approval. And I believe there was something in the previous paragraph as well.
Can you make it just a smidge bigger, please, sir?
Sure.
Yeah, there's
where
another,
it also says the Board of Supervisors failure to approve shall not result in any claim to the earnest money.
so that's, yeah.
So those were the 2 points that I had highlighted in my notes, but I may have had incomplete notes, the board to take a look at that to make sure that that was the primary concern that I heard, but
Yeah.
I had a whisper in the back of my head working on this, that there was another one as well that I was not forgetting or seeing in my notes, but that may not have been the case either.
This is what I had in my notes, that the board had wanted was that refundable piece and just some tighter language around how that earnest money can be recalled, and especially if the board does not end up signing onto that property.
Yeah, that was my recollection of what our issues were last time as well. And first glance, this looks to me like it covers that, and you're comfortable that this provides the district with protection in the event that the board says, no, we're not going to do that.
Right, it directs Sarah about what to put in agreements, what to negotiate in
Yeah.
agreements. And that as a legal matter also limits Sarah as to what she can agree to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that we can claim if there's something overlooked that it was an outside of authority agreement, which gives an agency like the district protections. So I'm comfortable that this provides the protections to get, so that the earnest money isn't lost if the board doesn't like a project, like a transaction that Sarah thought they'd like, thought you'd like. So, I mean, this is kind of new ground, right? We won't actually know for sure how well it works until
Right.
it's tried.
Yeah.
And that means until there's a problem. So, but I think this anticipates and addresses and prevents the problems that we've identified. So until a judge tells me I'm wrong,
That's
which I
right.
don't think would happen, but
Okay, Mary Ann, you have any comments, questions about this?
No, not at this time.
All right, Doug, Jennifer? Okay, so I think we're saying looks good, address the concerns we brought up last month. It is on our agenda this evening for adoption. So without any changes to this, we'll take this document and this will be the one that we'll take action on this evening. All right, then with that, let's move to item 6. Land acknowledgement and strategic plan. This is an issue I think Doug brought to me and to Sarah. And so it's on the table here for a little bit of discussion. Do you want to say anything about it, Doug?
Yeah, the main premise is we've got our mission statement, and this would be the next paragraph on our strategic plan that says something that we realize that we European types weren't the first people here, and acknowledging that there were tribes here, several tribes, and we value what they did. I'm pretty sure there's some generic language.
So we have a land acknowledgement or land recognition that we use in a variety of settings. And so I appreciate that it is on our website even, and I included it here in our strategic plan draft.
Could you make it bigger, please?
Yes, yes, absolutely. It is much smaller on that screen than my computer. In the mission and vision section, like you had suggested, for your consideration. So if the board would like this to remain in there for the in the version of the plan that's adopted tonight, this was the addition.
All right, comments, thoughts?
And this is the language that we're
Already using. Mhm.
It's great.
I think it looks good too.
Mary Ann?
Well, I really appreciate land recognition. I agree with it. I just don't know if it needs to be in our strategic plan. We have it in other areas, but that's just my thought on that. Anybody else?
Yeah, I guess I was in the same position. For me, it's not necessary and seems a little weird to put it in the strategic plan when it's an underlying value that we've already identified for the organization elsewhere. It almost, by sticking it in here, it almost seems a little bit like tokenism to me.
Can I ask, like, who, when we're thinking about our strategic plan, like, and the audience for this, like, is this really more of an internal document for ourselves, or would this be used externally as well? Okay.
Both.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I differ, not guess. I differ. I think it's a strategic statement, an underlying value.
Wouldn't,
I wouldn't be greatly offended if we didn't put it in.
Yeah.
would an alternative proposal be that instead of where our mission and vision section of the plan is listed, we have a section in here around sort of the history and foundation of our CD, and also sort of Thurston County data and information around our landscape and pieces. I mean, these are definitely much more data oriented, but it does kind of give context around the landscape that we're working in.
That makes sense to me. It is the context in the same way that this other stuff is the context for the district. So we have the plan scheduled for adoption tonight. When we get to that point, we all know what we're talking about now. If anyone wants to make a motion to amend the plan, either to include it as an appendix, include it in an appendix, or to put it in the plan, we would need to have a motion to amend the plan, as we've already kind of approved, well, haven't approved the plan, we've directed that that plan be brought to us for discussion and decision tonight. Does that make sense? I just feel like I was very confusing in the way I said that.
Yeah, it was confusing, but we understand.
Yeah, okay. Just that time of year, Doug. Marianne, anything further from you?
Okay, so I lost my internet and I just popped back on.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, nothing further. I'm not gonna make a motion to amend anything, so
Okay. But you understand what I said?
I completely understand.
Okay, great. All right. Then let's move to item 7, which is the annual plan development.
Yeah, I just wanted to have a little bit of sort of pre-conversation with the board about the annual plan development process that we will begin once we have a strategic plan. We can develop an annual plan under. Staff has been working already on sort of the metric aggregation, sort of reporting structure component of that, getting together the tasks aligned with the strategic goals that we have slated for next year, getting the budget items ready to marry into that plan, and developing a new format, right, for that annual plan, new look and feel that's going to be consistent with our strategic plan. What I wanted to, and you saw sort of that timeline, proposed timeline for working on the plan, bringing you some draft language, at least some parts of the plan in January for review, a full draft in February, and approving by March, I think would be great. We have to turn it in May to the Conservation Commission. So that's kind of our statutory deadline. But I'd love to just hear any feedback from the board specifically about priority actions or initiatives that you want to make sure on the front end are really called out in that annual plan. And I want to just sort of, not every action and task that we do at TCD is going to be captured in that annual plan or be 150 pages. And we don't want to track a lot of that data because we want to do the work. But what are the most important big bucket things that you really want to try and accomplish next year within the context of the budget that you're going to approve tonight in the annual plan that hopefully we'll also approve tonight? It's a big question, and we can think about it, and you can have this feedback prepared for January too. But if there's anything burning right now that you want me to integrate, I'd love to do that.
All right. Thoughts?
I have nothing burning. I feel like I might need to think on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that jumps to my mind immediately is completing the rates and charges study and developing a proposal for that and in response to that, it would help achieve strategic plan goals.
Absolutely.
I really much appreciate the linkage between the annual plan. I've had the hiccups for like 3 days between the strategic plan and the annual plan. It's really good.
It seems like this is a cleaner process than it has been in the past because we had a better strategic plan. Yeah. Did you have anything, Marianne, in terms of next year priorities for you in the plan?
By the way, awesome. I'm looking forward to just seeing some things, getting some relationships and moving forward more with protections and etc. Yeah.
There are a lot of exciting pieces moving on that front, so I think you're
Good.
gonna really enjoy that in the annual plan.
Yay.
So since we don't have a lot, maybe in terms of the next step here is, Sarah, it would be good for you to work with staff and come back to us with some proposed goals that we could then discuss and talk and give direction on next month. Or if it's
Absolutely.
February or whatever.
Yeah, and why it's a priority.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll plan to do that. This was just your sort of early pre-check opportunity.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely plan to bring those top pieces that are high priorities and funded and moving forward and those big accomplishments for next year.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Item 8, the CEC.
Yeah. There's a lot happening on this one, which is really great. Thank you to Marianne. She was at our committee meeting and got a full download of lots of that information. So feel free at any point, Marianne, if you want to jump in, you can do that. One of the action items for this work session, though, is to review the sort of site evaluation checklist, which has the criteria. It's not so much the scoring rubric mechanism, which was put together to score properties, but I think the intent of tonight's conversation was more to look at some of the specs and requirements that we have that are valuable and important to us as we find this site, and in particular, because one, things may have changed since we last put this together, and two, we have new voices on the board that haven't been able to participate in that. So I have it up on the screen. I'm going to make it bigger because you're right, that is so small.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And hopefully you've all had a chance to see this. I think this was also included in your materials for the work session and sent out with the packet. So if there's any particular area that you want to call attention to, we can do that, or you can sort of review this by section, whatever's easiest.
I thought it was pretty thorough. We won't be taking action on it. I think you're moving to the action.
Yeah, it's not an action item, it's a review item.
Yeah.
A lot of good thought, I think.
Can you scroll down beyond the first section? I've read this, but it's been a couple days. I wanted to.
Sure.
Never mind. Okay, we got this. I'll keep going, please, if you don't mind. Okay, yeah. Access to utilities, that was the one. I wanted to make sure that had all of the pieces we need there, because that has been in our previous discussions. That's been a big deal because it's a big cost if it doesn't have those things.
Right. Yeah.
So can I ask a question
Sure.
Yeah.
that I kind of wanted to ask when we were in the meeting, because I think anyway. So you're not really looking, as long as it has access to utilities, though, are you also going to look for raw land? I mean, or something that already has maybe development on it?
So one of the things that came up in our committee meeting is there are a variety of sort of screening levels, right, to look at the CEC property and to think about it. One of those is economics, right? How much is it going to cost to rehab this particular building or demolish and rebuild on a site that has that? And how much is it going to cost in a raw land space where we have to bring in utilities? So there's those sort of cost versus benefit factors just in that economic sense. There's also a variety of questions and conversations I think that the board might want to have moving forward around values. of land use type. And an example of that is if some of the land that it might be suitable for our conservation and education center has historically been in production, in agricultural production. How does TCD feel about building a center on that space and conducting farmland preservation efforts? Does the board want to make farmland preservation a component of the CEC and build on a piece to preserve the rest, or similarly a forest or other type of sensitive habitat, whatever it is? Do we want to use preservation as a catalyst for this, or do we want to, prioritize spaces that don't have those elements on there, but there may be cost barriers? So I think there's a series of those types of questions that we might want to have together moving forward in the future. But yeah, those types of values-based conversations, like we talked about in our committee meeting, Mary Ann, are not reflected in here. This is really more specifications.
Yeah, and there's another kind of context to the preservation piece, and I'm thinking back to what Helen kept bringing up here, which is preserving existing buildings, looking at taking something that's already built and on the landscape versus building something new. Clearly, there's cost considerations, but I think there's also value considerations about wanting to use something that's already been built. So I think that preservation is kind of a big box that has various components to it.
It can be more expensive, but
Yeah.
And the environmental remediation conversation came up as well, and that is both in an existing infrastructure conversation about remediating maybe dilapidated buildings, but it's also, we are the conservation district, and we might be really well positioned to take something that is degrading the landscape and transform it into something that's enhancing the landscape. And so that also, again, is kind of a cost and time piece to it. And these are all values that the board, wants to think about and be clear on, that can help direct. Right now, we're looking at these sort of specs, and then we're going through that site analysis piece. The subcommittee will see sort of the first flush of a lot of those in our next committee meeting from our DES. I always want to say ESD, wrong agency. From DES, and bring any of those that meet the majority of this criteria back to the board for some further discussion. And when you start to see those properties in real time too, and we start to get a little bit more information, that might help inform some of those values-based conversations.
Yeah. So I think in terms of the things that are sort of somewhat objective, this seems to me like a pretty good list. But clearly it's not going to be something that we use where like, oh, scores really high, so nothing else matters.
Right.
Or it scores low, so nothing else matters. But it'll be a way to frame a conversation.
Yeah.
Mary Ann, thanks for participating in the process with the committee.
of course, it's fun. I love this.
Okay, anything further on that one?
Yeah, if the board doesn't have anything to change on this, I think that is good for our work session conversation around this.
Yeah. Okay. That then moves us to the last item on our work session, which is updates and announcements. Again, I'll start online. Mary Ann, do you have anything?
No.
Oh, she should. Over. No. I have a couple things. The first is kind of in the good news that the federal government is still functioning department. They are starting to process payments for a conservation stewardship program, and I was actually surprised when I saw mine hit my bank relatively quickly between the time I signed the paperwork and the deposit. So things are still happening there in terms of getting support to producers that have federal contracts. So that's kind of good news, I guess. The other thing is that I had a rather lengthy meeting on Monday with Commissioner Menser. And the nature of the conversation is I wanted to start to talk with him about how we're going to get more resources for farmland preservation. And pointing out some of the challenges we have with the existing system, conservation futures in particular, and some of the limitations and, the various demands that are placed on that program. And he was quite aware of that. I was hoping that by that point, so one of the things that I learned at the conference was there was a rate set by the state of how much you can get through conservation futures. And it wasn't clear if Thurston County was ever at that maximum rate or not. And Danny Madrone, in her role as WACD lobbyist, has been trying to get that information from Department of Revenue and hasn't got it yet. And Commissioner Menser didn't know either. So he's gone back to try to get the answer from the county. So that would at least tell us, is there any capacity within the Conservation Futures Fund? The challenge with Conservation Futures is it is a property tax. And so it's subject to the 1% cap on property taxes. And so it really isn't a source that can grow over time, even to keep up with inflation, the way things stand right now because of the voter initiative on property tax caps. So that opened beautifully the conversation around other sources for funding. And so I talked to him a lot about rates and charges, where we've been and what the change in the state law was and what that would mean for us as a district, raw number wise, getting, 5 times as much money, 4 times as much money, of which some or all of that could be used for farmland preservation. And he was quite surprised to know he hadn't heard that the state law had changed. They did not know that. He also did not know that it was something that could be an easy thing for the commissioners to do to increase funding for farmland preservation. And I told him about the rate study that we're undertaking in 2026. And without any guarantee of success, the takeaway from that conversation is that he, as chair of the commission next year, is on board with raising rates and charges, in particular, for farmland preservation. And he feels as if it would be a relatively easy sell for a majority of the county commission to say yes to some level of increase, because there continues to be concern among all the commissioners about the loss of farmlands and the county's inability to do much about it. They're doing some policy stuff, and we talked about the policy stuff and whether it will or won't make a difference. But ultimately, I think he understood that without additional resources, it's going to be hard to do this. So I walked away from that conversation very encouraged. He asked if we wanted to come make a presentation right away to the commissioners, and I said no. I said, let us get through the rate study. But in the meantime, we're going to kind of prime the pump with these outings to the commission and the other city councils to introduce our strategic plan and be able to highlight that this is an area that we want to really focus on. So beginning to kind of prime the pump a little about that. And then when we have some hard data from the rates and charges study, do a work session on it. And I felt like it was a pretty positive meeting.
Wow. Good job.
So, yeah.
That's great.
We'll see where it goes, but the door did not get slammed in my face. I didn't think it would, but yeah.
Yeah. I do have a tidbit. I was on a NACD forestry call, and organizationally, I found out that Astor Boozer, who was the regional conservationist, is now in New Hampshire or something. They've got what they call assistant division chiefs, which are political appointees. And then the real regional conservationist will be an assistant to that political appointee.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Until the spoil system comes back in.
Yeah.
Well,
Past is prologue. Okay, then Sarah, you get the last word here.
Yeah, couple of quick things. I'm excited for the rate study next year for rates and charges. As we grow as an organization, we need more unrestricted resources for operational administration of the organization if we want to get any bigger or do any new or more things. So that'll be a factor in that conversation. But I'm excited to think about the support for things like farmland preservation and the CEC project. The other, let me let Marianne back in. The other items are, you all got an email with the link to complete sexual harassment training. If you haven't done that and completed the sexual harassment training module, please do that. So we can get everybody in the organization done by the end of this year is our goal by December 31st. If you have any questions or any needs around that, definitely let us know and we can help support that. And the only other piece is on farmland preservation again. There are a series of conversations shaping up between Department of Defense and NACD around essentially structurally what hasn't been working for some of the Sentinel landscapes and their goals. And of course, farmland preservation is the one that we are shouting loud and clear about. And so the intent is to utilize all of these people with REPI and DOD and NACD and districts and Sentinel landscape folks in the same room at the same time to try and identify, to have a work session to identify what is the pinch point in the existing programmatic structures, why aren't those working, and where can alternative structures be created. And it is that land component has some very specific pipelines that can funnel through with federal dollars that have different challenges to them. And so there's other pipelines where other funding is funneled that have more flexibility and adaptability. And so I'm really excited for this conversation because I think that it's an opportunity for us to speak to the right people that have some authority to make decisions and changes with how funding is funneled internally through some of these structures.
And you're gonna give a presentation at NACD on that, or be part of a panel or something?
I'm invited to that work session that's happening at NACD
That would be good.
and asked for my opinion on what we should discuss. And I said, well, boy, howdy, I will tell you what we should talk about.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the work session here. It is 6:02, so we will break here. We'll take a 28-minute break and we will come back at 6:30 for the board meeting. All right, it is 6:30. So let's call this final board meeting of the year to order here, December 17th, 2025. Welcome everyone. We have supervisors in the room, Doug, Jennifer, myself. We have Marianne online, and David is unable to join us tonight. So we do have a quorum, so we can move forward with actions tonight. Of course, we also have various staff members here and our legal counsel as well. And as we just heard, we're recording this, so the public and perhaps missing board members can take a look at this later. So with that, we need to take a look at our agenda and approve it. I'm making a suggestion for one change, which is on our executive session number 12, performance executive director. Let's make that a little bit shorter. Let's shorten that to a 20-minute executive session, so 7:50 to 8:10 or 20 minutes whenever we get to that. Any other changes to our agenda?
We talked about adding a D to 6 other reports to talk about the NACD.
Thank you, Doug. Yes, we did at the work session change that. So we've, 6D is now an NACD conference discussion. All right, anything else? If not, I'll need a motion on the agenda.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, it's moved by Jennifer, seconded by Doug. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Marianne, you're on mute.
I know.
Thank you. All right, the next item then here is consent agenda. We've got a lot on consent tonight, so I'm not going to read everything that's here, but we've got a lot of contracts, a lot of agreements for funding, number of different things, application authorizations, and a big fire protection plan, and I see Stephanie over here. And that looked like a heavy undertaking. It was certainly a long document to get through, so. But with that, a consent agenda, we will need a motion.
I actually read the whole damn thing. I'll make a motion.
All 200 pages? Or the wildfire
The
thing?
wildfire
Yeah.
thing for sure, and then I looked at the other.
Yeah.
Anyway, I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, moved by Doug, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jennifer. So all those in favor of the consent agenda, say aye. Aye.
I,
Thank you. We've passed the consent agenda. That then moves us to item 4. We have a special person in the room here, Mr. Bob Barnes, who is our volunteer of the year. And we'd like to do a little recognition for Mr. Barnes. I think, Sarah, you want to say a few things here?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. Hi, Bob. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad that we have this time and space to honor you. We have an award to present you with. We'll do that and take your picture and the handshake and all of that so that we can publicly share about this in the coming months in our newsletter and on social media and all of that. But you're receiving the Doug Rushton Conservation Legacy Award, and this is obviously named after our current board member, Doug Rushton. But it's really given to those people in our community that have dedicated their lives, their careers, their legacy to stewardship of natural resources in our community. So this is the big meal deal of people that have really made such a long lasting impact on the landscape. And it was a very widespread shared sentiment that we could have equally have named this award the Bob Barnes Conservation Legacy Award.
No, it's very aptly named because.
Thank you.
I'm going to read a few things about your award and some of the things that were shared in nomination of your award, Bob. As you know, the mission of Thurston Conservation District is to educate and assist the citizens of Thurston County in the management of natural resources for the benefit of present and future generations. Your nearly 50 years of service to the community is a beautiful illustration of an individual who's deeply aligned with TCD's mission. You've facilitated lasting relationships and programs such as the Marshall Middle School, Native Plant Nursery, and Olympia Ecosystems Partnership that have become self-sustaining and will continue to function well into the future. Your mantra of first year they sleep, second year they creep, third year they leap is a favorite quote of many TCD staff and has influenced the way we approach restoration, noting the need for long-term commitment to the work and a good dose of patience. So we want to thank you for your dedication and partnership. Our local environment and community are better because of your work, and we're grateful to continue partnering with you now and into the future. So thank you very much.
Yeah. And with that, you do have a little something to present you. You're the photographer?
I'm gonna do
Okay,
that.
you're doing
Well, do you want me to take photos, Sarah, and you can help present as well?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be So we have a little plaque here for you. You want to hold that up here? We'll,
Come on in here, Karen, Stephanie.
yeah, come on, Karen.
I'm looking for another. Oh, that's great. That's something good one. That's great. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I'd be awesome.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate
And thank you for setting the document. Thank you, and thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Sharon, for nominating me. Well deserved. Yeah. I'm out of power. Oh. I live out on that. So you want to stay here where it's warm and light?
Yeah. Well, there is cake.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I'm working on another project with Sophie Brown Elementary, along with Stephanie. Yeah. Environmental learning place. It's gonna be fantastic. So, yeah. We'll be quick. All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Hi, it's fun.
Okay,
No.
item 5 is public comment. This is the point at which any member of the public can address the board for up to 3 minutes on a topic of their choosing that might also be of relevance to us. I don't think we have anyone online. We have no one in the room. I don't think we have anyone online, but if I'm missing something, please speak up here. All right, hearing nothing, seeing nothing, we will close public comment and move on to our partner reports. First up here would be NRCS. They are not here this evening. And then second would be the commission, and Josh also is not here. He's on vacation, personal leave, so we'll see him next month. So that takes us to the third piece here, which is WACD. We did talk a bit about the conference during our work session. Is there anything further to report here, Sarah?
Nothing huge at this point other than the WCD Legislative Day is coming up on February 10th. I just saw an email come into my inbox too that the commission is hosting a half-day pre-meeting on February 9th to talk over the key points of the budget packages that the commission put forward. That email was sent to all board supervisors from Kate Delavan at the commission, so it has details on that. It was sent just, I mean, right before you walked in the door for this meeting, so
All right.
you might not have seen it yet. I'll forward it to you all just to make sure that it's coming into your inbox and not your spam. That is February 9th, noon to 4 for this sort of pre-meeting strategy debrief. And then legislative day is on February 10th, and as usual, TCD will schedule a bunch of those appointments with our elected officials and then gauge your interest on who you'd like to participate when and where and move forward with that. We also have all of our own sort of curated materials, and then we put together a suite of those with some strategic statewide materials to try and keep it light on paper but big on impact.
So I do have a question related to the legislative day, and I guess we don't have to talk about this now, but it's something maybe we should consider for next month, which is around this issue of election reform and the filing of the F1. Clearly, the association has taken a position there. We haven't talked about whether it's our position or not, so let's put that on the agenda for the work session next month, so that we are clear when we go into those meetings, what we think as an organization.
Okay.
All right. Okay, that's it on WACD then. So the last one under partner reports is NACD. I think the issue here that Doug brought up was conference attendance.
Yes.
Okay. So Sarah, you've expressed interest and have an invitation to attend this meeting. Is there any other, is it from a supervisor? Is there supervisors interested or planning to attend this? No. Mary Ann? Nope.
I'd like to.
Doug would like to. All right. Do we have sufficient budget to cover to travel to this?
We can look at our board supervisor travel line item and give you a little bit of an update on what that looks like. The registration early bird deadline is Friday of this week. So we can do a quick turnaround on that. My guess is that category is often underspent. Not all 5 of you typically go to the WACD annual meeting, which is really where this is based, that budget item is based on. So there's likely additional funding. I also have been in communication with our Sentinel Landscape partnership, and they may have additional funding to support Sentinel Landscape priorities and maybe some funding for that. So, yeah, we can do a quick turnaround on.
Well, thank you. I'd like to go for a couple reasons. One is to say goodbye to a whole lot of people. And 2, I was in meetings all the time, so I never really got to participate in the conference itself.
Mhm.
Maybe
Yeah.
nice to go to a concurrent session or two or three.
Okay. So yes, Sarah, if you could check that out.
Yeah.
Get a message out to the board. I think the only concern I would have is, will there still be sufficient funding for people to attend the state conference? Since it's not at a casino, there might be more interest next year.
And it is closer. I will say that this is not an expense that was added to that line item, so there isn't
Yeah.
an extra budget. It would be coming out of the
Out of
budget
the
that's
general.
based on the 5 of you going to
Got it.
WCD.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's Community Lodge, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So travel costs would be a little bit less if nothing else.
Mhm.
That's not as far as Spokane. Okay,
Thank you.
that's that. That moves us to the big item here, the 9 point something million item, which is our 2026 budget. We spent a bunch of time last month talking about this. So I'd say, Sarah, is there any changes that have been made since last month that we
Nope.
need to be aware of?
Nope.
Okay, so it's the exact same budget that we looked at last month and made comments on.
Yep.
Okay, so with that, we need a motion on adopting our 2026 budget.
I move that we adopt our 2026 budget.
Okay, moved by Doug. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Seconded and thirded. So let's vote on the budget here. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it is unanimous. We have passed our budget.
Congratulations to you and Susan.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And
That then takes us to item 8, a resolution about entering into real estate transactions. Again, we talked about this last month. We saw a revised version of this resolution at our work session earlier tonight, which seems to have incorporated all of the comments and concerns the board had last month. So unless there's further discussion, we'll need a motion on this resolution.
So I was thinking about something that's during the work session, and that is at some point in the future, once the current board has worked through the scoring criteria, we could add a term to the process to further instruct Sarah to pay attention to the scoring criteria. That's not currently in this resolution, but it seems like it could be a natural fit, but it can be done by amendment later.
Okay. That seems reasonable. Okay, so is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'm gonna let Mary Ann do it.
Okay, so Mary Ann, what is your motion?
To approve the entering into real estate transactions, number 2025-6.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jennifer. So all those in favor of TCD resolution 2025-06, say aye.
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 All right, we have passed that resolution. Another big item here under our next item here, 9, governance. We're doing a lot of big stuff tonight. This is exciting. End of year. We have a new strategic plan, 2030 and beyond strategic plan. And we are planning to take action on that tonight. So I will need a motion on that strategic plan.
I'll make a motion with the slight amendment of adding something about Indigenous acknowledgement.
Okay. For clarification, since we talked about several options, is that within the appendix that discusses context or in the body of the plan?
Context.
Okay,
Yes.
so it would be in addition to appendix 1 of the strategic plan. So there's the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Jennifer. All right, those in favor of adopting the strategic plan as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
okay. We've adopted it.
Thank you for accepting that suggestion.
Yep. All right, then we move to the second item under governance, which is next month. So we can get that up on the screen here. We'll take a quick look at what's coming at us in the new year.
I have the one presentation as the staff presentation.
Okay, it's up there, but it's not on my screen
Which
here.
one is it?
That's interesting.
Sophia, you can push, yeah, share again.
Yeah.
And then that can be farmland preservation.
Yep.
JJ, you think there'll be more information on your conversation with Ty Windsor?
No, I don't think so. I think the next step is for us to get rates and charges study completed.
For the presentation. I think there was a suggestion for a biocellulose speaker potentially. It's already on 4.
And I think,
There it is.
okay, I'd add one more to the work session, and this is partially in relation to the feedback Sarah provided to the board, which we'll talk about under an executive session, but outreach, and specifically strategic plan outreach. And to have a discussion about how we want to start to get that out, how the board can be a part of getting that out.
Yeah.
So let's put that in.
Or B.
Or, well, yeah, let's just call for a strategic planning outreach instead of process,
Yeah.
since the process is over. You can just make it, yeah, just change for so it says strategic planning outreach. There we go. Okay. And I don't think we need item 5. We no longer have a committee because the committee's work is completed. So let's delete that one.
Do we need to talk about the upcoming legislative stuff and what you
Yeah.
did?
So let's add, yeah, for legislative day preparation. And then let's make sure we talk about the F1 as part of that. And just generally election reform, I should say. Election reform / F1. Okay, anything else in the work session? Mary Ann, do you have anything to add? Did we lose Mary Ann? Might have.
It has been blinking out.
Okay, so this is just draft. If she has something, we can add it later, as well as anything David wants to put on here. Let's take a look at the board meeting then. Okay, recognition, as we were talking about earlier, for Riverbend Ranch. And then a lot of the same updates, and always a placeholder for our real estate acquisition executive session. Anything else there for now?
Looks good to me.
All right, we'll go with that for a draft for next month then. That moves us to our first of 2 executive sessions. Session 1 is to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate. This is permitted under RCW 42-30-110-1B. This executive session is scheduled to last 10 minutes. It will include our executive director, board members, and our legal counsel. We will have some discussion and provide general direction if necessary, but take no formal decisions. We will come back with the report out after that 10-minute period ends. It is currently 6:51. So we are going to come back in at 7:01 from that executive session. All right. Is our Zoom off?
We are going into a breakout room.
Oh, because of Mary Ann.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me in there?
Okay, we are back from executive session at 7:01. And we just had a discussion about acquisition of real estate, site selection, and provided some general direction to our staff in regards to that matter. No decisions were made. That moves us then to the second of our executive sessions and the last one for 2025. And this is the final executive session to finalize the performance review for our executive director. This is permitted under OCW 4230-110G. We're scheduled here for 15 minutes. I think that still seems about right. I don't think we'll go longer than that. So it is now 7:02.
I
I
think
think we have 20 minutes.
TJ, you said 20 earlier.
Oh, 7:02. Yes, I said 20, but I was suggesting maybe we only needed 15. We have one less member here. Does that sound okay to folks? Okay, so it's 7:02. That will take us to 7:17 PM. And this executive session includes only executive director and board. It does not include legal counsel. So we'll break into that and then we will come back for a final report out and adjourn of the meeting. Let's say 7:03 is when this starts, so let's move that to 7:18 return time.
Do you have access to the breakout room still?
I don't,
Okay, let me,
but that's okay. We can do it here
Mm.
without that. Mary Ann's the only one who would need that session here. Okay, it is 7:18 and we are back in public session. We just completed an executive session, which was the final discussion in relation to the annual performance of our executive director. We have the board provided me as chair clear direction, and I will follow up as per our process and sit down with Sarah and go over our recommendations and our assessment. Probably not until the new year,
Okay.
but we'll do that as soon as we can. And then with that, there's nothing left on our agenda. So all we need at this point is a motion to adjourn.
I'll move that.
Moved by Doug,
I'll second.
seconded by Jennifer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Mary Ann's having a lot of.
Aye.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Thanks, Mary Ann. There we go. It's either a one or I, and an OMG. Okay. There we go. All right. With that, we were adjourned, and that concludes our business as a board for 2025. Thanks, everybody.
Before we leave, I'd like to tell you guys how much I appreciate this. I've been through some